Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Wednesday, NFL League year officially began, and Wednesday saw another New Orleans Saint player sign elsewhere. Of course, we saw Will Harris, the safety, go to Washington. Paulson Adebo, cornerback, up in New York with the Giants now. And the one that came about on Wednesday, candidly, I guess is a little bit of a surprise, because Marquez Valdes-Scantling was like sitting at home eating Cheetos, right? I mean, he was in Buffalo and did nothing in Buffalo. Played 6 games for the Bills, caught 2 balls on 9 targets, 2 catches for 26 yards. Like, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who, again, was a good player early in his career, the 4 seasons he spent in Green Bay, went to Kansas City for 2 years, won a couple of Super Bowls in 22 and 23 with Kansas City. Then he goes to Buffalo, and I get it. You know, with the depth Buffalo had at receiver and what they added, it was a little hard for him to get targets. But my goodness, he comes to the Saints, and kaboom. I mean, he became the stretch the field deep threat for New Orleans. Do you know what Marquez Valdes-Scantling's yard per catch average was in the 8 games he played in New Orleans? It's not going to surprise you when I tell you the number, because it's a big number. But like when I say it, it's still like, oh my God. Valdes-Scantling averaged 22 yards per reception. Like, eventually you're going to mix in one of those like bubble screens that gets, goes for a loss of 3, right? I mean, it's incredible. Of course, the 71-yarder was his long. 13 of his 17 receptions, 13 of the 17 went for a first down or a touchdown, right? He was incredible. Like drinking from the fountain of youth all of a sudden in New Orleans. And so Seattle, which just traded DK Metcalf, turned around and paid Marquez Valdes-Scantling $5 million. So a 1-year, $5.5 million deal the Seahawks gave Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And I get it. For Seattle, when you're looking at a guy who, or a team there, you just signed Sam Darnold. It's a big deal bringing in Sam Darnold. You traded away Metcalf. Trade away Geno. So they need to get weapons there in Seattle. And here's a guy that showed he's still very capable in the NFL. The odd thing about this for me from New Orleans' perspective is this is the kind of guy you want to keep. I went and checked. Going into 2024, so this is while Chris Olave is still healthy, Rashid Shaheed is still healthy. This is going into the 2024 season. Pro Football Focus ranked the receiving corps in the NFL, 1 to 32. New Orleans was 24th. That was with Olave and Shaheed. So regardless of what we think, Olave being a former first-round pick, Shaheed, deep ball ability, the bottom line is you're still looking at dudes like Bub Means going into last year, trying to count on him. I mean, you come through that season a year ago, and my goodness, the New Orleans Saints receiving corps, not only were they a mash unit with the injuries to Olave and Shaheed, but on top of that, you just weren't productive. I mean, you're talking about guys like Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton. I feel like the scene in Major League when the guys sit at the coffee shop, on the construction site, they're reading through the roster. Who are these guys? Never heard it. I mean, that's what it feels like looking at these receivers last year. So you have a guy who's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, been in the league for 6 years. You pull him off the couch, he's a productive player for you, and now you let him walk? I mean, this is the type of thing I got to ask the question, because I've pretty much lambasted the Saints for what they've done in free agency so far, and I think justifiably so. And I got to ask the question, well, what would you like for them to have done? Well, I think I've spelled this out pretty clearly. I wanted the New Orleans Saints to release Derek Carr and eat the dead cap hit this year. That would have required manipulating a lot of other contracts, but you get out from underneath the biggest albatross around your neck, which now you will carry this year and 2026 and 2027. But what I wanted them to do was create team-friendly deals with players like Marquez Valdes-Scantling. 1 year, 5.5 for Marquez Valdes-Scantling seems like a really good deal when you're getting Olave and Shaheed back. Okay, and I get it. Rashid Shaheed, deep threat guy, that's the role Valdes-Scantling played. You're going to tell me you can't use depth at receiver? Come on. I mean, we talked about Justin Reed. In a vacuum, I'm very excited about Justin Reed. He's a good player. I mean, it's a tackling machine. He's averaged like 80 tackles a season throughout his NFL career. Houston, Kansas City, won a Super Bowl in Kansas City. Like, there's a lot to like. A local guy, bringing him home. I like, in a vacuum, like Justin Reed a lot. I'm fired. He gets to come home. He tweeted about coming home. Same thing with Devon Gottschall. Like, but the 3-year, $30+ million contract for Justin Reed is the thing where you go, why would you restructure contracts to free up cap space to bring in a guy that's not a dramatic improvement from who you had in Will Harris, who got a 2-year, $8 million deal in Washington? Like, let me phrase it to you this way. If I told you you could have some cap relief moving forward and have Will Harris on a 2-year, $8 million deal, or you're running it back in New Orleans this year, restructuring a bunch of deals to free up cap space to bring in Justin Reed, like to re-sign Chase Young, re-sign Juwan Johnson, these big contracts, like what would you rather? Because the reality remains, with the moves the Saints have made to this point, you're running it back with effectively the same roster from a team that was a 5-win team a year ago. And I know Gumsmack and Mickey is going to sit there and tell you it was the injuries. What did he say? Look past the results? I need you to get that soundbite because I need that in perpetuity. You better put that on a button. I'm dead serious. Because that, just like Ellen Moore Muse, I'm going to wear that soundbite out.
Ellen Moore.
Like I told you, they are going to put look past the results on Mickey Loomis's tombstone. Not his literal tombstone. On his career tombstone. So you're running it back with all the same guys, and even if injuries no doubt played a role, but a healthy roster for the Saints last year, what are you? 7-win team? You're continuing to mortgage your future for a team that's still not going to compete. That's the contention that I'll continue to make. So if you're looking for guys that could be capable players for you on affordable deals, Will Harris is one of them. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 1 year, $5.5 million in Seattle. That's one that you'd love to have kept. What doesn't make sense is giving Juwan Johnson $30 million, giving Chase Young $51 million. Why? You're not close to competing. It just goes to continue to underscore the disconnect between what the rest of the football world thinks and those few people in the executive offices on Airline Drive who really believe, again, it's not words. I always say it, actions speak louder than words. Their actions are showing you they think they're a contender. And literally no one else in the football-loving world agrees with them. But their actions continue to map toward that, much to their detriment. And it's going to continue to cost them in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. So you got to get receiver help. I mean, you're not going into the season with Olave and Shaheed, and that's it. Mason Tipton and Cedric Wilson and Dante Pettis. Like, that ain't it. So the fact that you re-signed Juwan Johnson, you've got Foster Moreau back, you've re-signed Chase Young, you're probably looking at 9 at receiver. For all the different conversations we've had about the possibility of Tyler Warren there, you're having Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau probably means you're not looking at Tyler Warren at 9. Not exclusively, probably. Which means like if Tetaroa McMillan from Arizona is there at 9, I got to think that's probably the pick at this point. Whew. But when you have an endless amount of needs, anything could be the pick. Marquez Valdes-Scantling headed to Seattle. 1 year, $5 million. We're good. We got Mason Tipton on our team. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.